Okay, what if I told you that the absolute best way to win a high-stakes negotiation is to give up your power? I know, it sounds completely backwards, but this is the revolutionary idea from Thomas Schelling, a thinker who basically turned the entire world of strategy on its head. And trust me, his logic is everywhere, from nuclear standoffs to how you're going to ask for your next raise.
So let's just dive right into the central puzzle here. How on earth can having fewer choices, like deliberately making your own situation worse, somehow make you stronger? This isn't just a brain teaser. It's a fundamental question about strategy, and it's one that Schelling spent his entire life trying to figure out.
And yeah, he figured it out. Big time. In 2005, Schelling won the Nobel Prize for his work in game theory. But here's the thing. He wasn't your typical academic, crunching numbers in an ivory tower. He actually called himself an errant economist because he loved to stray from the neat formulas and get his hands dirty with messy, real-world problems. Like, how to avoid nuclear war.
Now, to really get what makes Schelling so important, you have to realize he didn't just add a new idea to economics. He caused what you could call an intellectual rupture, a complete, fundamental break from the past that totally rewired how we think about people interacting with each other.
This right here is the heart of it. See, the old way of thinking saw people as just passive price takers. The market does its thing, and you just react. But Schelling came along and said, no, that's not how it works at all. We're all strategic actors. We're constantly playing a game, trying to guess what the other person's going to do and trying to influence their next move. The economy isn't just a boring system for allocating stuff. It's this huge, dynamic game of mutual anticipation. And here's the light bulb moment. For Schelling, real strategy isn't about having the most power or the most options. It's about psychology. It's all about getting inside your opponent's head and shaping what they expect you to do. That idea was a complete game changer for traditional economics.
Which brings us to his first really mind-bending idea. Remember that question from the beginning about how having fewer options can make you win? Well, let's unpack exactly how that works.
Schelling gave it a name, a credible commitment. The best way to think about it is like you're not just drawing a line in the sand. You're showing up with a cement mixer and pouring it right over that line. You are publicly, obviously, and irreversibly taking choices off your own plate, and that sends an incredibly powerful signal that forces the other guy to completely change their game plan.
And his examples are just brilliant. Think about a general who literally burns the bridges behind his army. He's telling the enemy, look, we can't retreat even if we wanted to, so we're fighting to the death. You might as well just surrender now. Or my favorite, two dynamite trucks are heading toward each other on a one-lane road. Who wins the game of chicken? The driver who dramatically rips out his steering wheel and throws it out the window because now the other driver knows he has no choice but to swerve. It's not about being stronger. It's about making your threat to retaliate 100% believable.
So the takeaway here is a total reversal of what we're usually taught. In strategy, real power doesn't always come from keeping your options open. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is credibly tie your own hands.
Okay, so Schelling explained how to win conflicts, but he was just as interested in the opposite problem. How do we manage to cooperate, especially when we can't even talk to each other?
Let's try one of his classic thought experiments right now. Imagine you and a complete stranger have to meet up in New York City tomorrow. That's it. No texts, no calls, no emails. Where do you go and what time do you show up? Just think about it for a second. Almost everyone gives the exact same answer. Grand Central Station, under the big clock, at noon. But why?
Schelling called this a focal point. It's that solution that everyone just kind of defaults to. Not because it's logically the best option, but simply because it seems special or obvious. It has this kind of magnetic pull that everyone recognizes without having to say a single word.
And the reason focal points work is because we all share a culture, a common frame of reference. Grand Central at noon is definitely not the best place to meet in all of New York, but it is without a doubt the most obvious. And this simple little idea is the hidden engine behind so many social rules, from shaking hands when you meet someone to which side of the road we drive on. It's such a powerful concept that some philosophers think language itself first evolved just to help us create these shared focal points.
All right, now we're getting to one of Schelling's most startling and honestly most influential ideas. It's a model that shows how massive social patterns, like segregation, can emerge even when nobody actually wants them to. And this was a bombshell. Schelling showed, mathematically, that you don't need a city full of hateful bigots to end up with highly segregated neighborhoods. All you really need is a population where people have a very, very mild preference, Like, they just don't want to be in a tiny minority where they live. Here's how this tipping point model works. Picture a perfectly mixed neighborhood. One family moves out for a reason that has nothing to do with race, say a new job. But that one tiny move slightly changes the ratio of the neighborhood. Now, their next-door neighbor suddenly feels a little isolated, so their mild preference kicks in, and they decide to move too. And that move triggers their neighbor, and then the next one. It's a domino effect. A chain reaction starts, and before anyone even realizes what's happening, a totally integrated neighborhood has unraveled into a segregated one. And that is the huge insight from his book, Micromotives and Macro Behavior. Individual choices that seem perfectly reasonable and harmless on their own, the micromotives, can add up to create a large-scale outcome, the macro behavior, that nobody wanted and nobody planned. It's an absolutely profound lesson in unintended consequences. So after all this, what's the final legacy of this so-called errant economist? Well, his ideas didn't just stay in his field. They exploded outwards and fundamentally reshaped how we analyze pretty much everything. I mean, just look at the sheer range of his influence. His idea of credible commitment, that's now a cornerstone of international relations and how countries negotiate. Focal points, absolutely central to behavioral economics. We even understand things like financial panics as a kind of coordination failure. Schelling basically gave all the social sciences a shared language to talk about strategy.
Before Schelling, a lot of people thought game theory was just a weird, abstract mathematical exercise. He was the one who dragged it out of the classroom and showed how it could explain real, messy human behavior, conflict, cooperation, you name it. He turned it into a practical, powerful tool for making sense of the world.
Schelling really did give us a new lens for seeing the world. So, the final question is for you. Now that you know what to look for, where do you see these strategic games playing out in your own life? Is it in a negotiation at work? In your family dynamics? The unspoken rules of your friend group? Once you start looking, I promise, you'll see that Schelling's world of strategy is absolutely all around you.